Hello, and welcome to day two of starting our research paper for Advanced Studies World History, Turning Points in History. I know that yesterday you guys worked on getting your projects set up in Noodle Tools, and today we are going to further our work and look at kind of formulating a research question as well as some preliminary research. You can access this presentation and all of the links within it by typing in this short URL, and that's an AT slash lowercase I, lowercase j, capital I, capital O, capital V. So you can go back and look at any of the materials that we're discussing today. So just to kind of recap what you talked about on Monday, what is a turning point? That could be any idea, event, action that caused change and kind of was very noticeable. Sometimes that change is evident in the moment. Something happens like the pandemic and like COVID. And we all knew at that point, like, wow, this is big. This is kind of a turning point. This is, things are going to be different from now on. But sometimes we don't know that it's significant at the time. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time before that becomes evident. And sometimes you don't know what the impact is going to be until a little bit of time has passed. The change can be social, political, economic, cultural. It can be positive or negative. Oftentimes it's both. But you do need to be able to pinpoint a certain event or an action or invention or something and say this was a turning point in history. When you come up with your three different ideas, your three different possibilities, you're going to want to pause and ask yourself these questions. If you don't think these questions can be answered, if there isn't, you may not know the answers right now, but it needs to be able to say yes, there were immediate and long-term consequences. Yes, there was change created. And most importantly, that bottom question, why was this turning point significant in history? That's going to be what you're really asking. If the question you have posed doesn't lend itself to these questions, then that's probably not going to be a good topic. That's not going to be a good theme for you. So you're going to need to kind of keep thinking and keep working that. You can also kind of pause and look at this page if you want to on your own. But this is just a few ideas. If you're struggling coming up with your three different ideas, here's just a few brainstorming topics. But I want to really point out the poor examples versus the sample research question. It's not enough to just say, who was Marie Curie and what was she famous for? That's not going to be enough for this paper. A better question, a better topic is going to be, how was Marie Curie's research on radioactivity in the early 1900s a turning point in the medical field? How about the field of research? How about for women? That's going to be studying that turning point in a more complex way, not just a report about Marie Curie. And hopefully you kind of see the difference and can figure out how to do that on your particular topic. So the topic I'm interested in is the music group The Beatles and kind of the historical impact they had with Beatlemania and, changing music and kind of how they changed even culture and politics and society at the time. So my question is, what impact did the Beatles have on the music industry? How did they influence culture and society? So when I look at that, I got to look for some key terms. Of course, the Beatles is going to be one of my key terms. And I could also equally use Beatlemania or the British invasion, which is what some people refer to, kind of that movement in the music and society at that time. I could, for the word influence, I could use impact or effect. And I'm going to use music, culture, and society. So when I create a search phrase, I'm going to use a combination of those. I'm going to put in something like the Beatles or Beatlemania and impact or influence and music or culture. And I'm going to try lots of different combinations of all of these different key terms when I'm searching, hopefully in order to yield the best results. Take a few minutes and kind of pause. Take your first topic that you're going to do a little bit of preliminary research on and go ahead and start brainstorming some key terms. What are different words that you should use when you're searching that? And then we'll talk about where to go. Hopefully you were able to brainstorm a few key terms for your topic, and now you're ready to search. Whenever you're working from home, you will need to use our database usernames and passwords. You can click on this form right here. It'll take you out to an Excel spreadsheet that has all of our databases, all of our usernames and passwords, and a description of that. This should be a great jump off point, even if you're at school, because it has all of the links, but definitely something that you're going to want to use at home. Today, we are only going to really focus on 2 of our databases while you're at home. Just do a little bit of preliminary researching, and if you find something great, we're going to ask that you put it in Noodle Tools. So first, we're going to open JSTOR. The username for JSTOR is going to be LSW, and the password is going to be Titans. That should let you in to everything JSTOR has. I'm going to go ahead and start typing in my search. Anytime I put something in quotation marks like that, it means that I want it together. I only want the Beatles together. I don't just want Beatles. I don't just want the. I want the Beatles. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the Beatles and impact and music. I've got almost 5,000 results. If I want to get fewer results, I can search within the results over here. I could type in culture or society, try history, try and kind of narrow that down a little bit more. As far as the content, I can see a lot of them are academic journals. I've got lots of chapters within books, some research reports. I've also got some primary sources in here. But I'm going to go ahead and just start opening a few of these up. So let's look at interpreting the Beatles. This looks interesting. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. It should show up here, similar to how it looked in the original journal that it was printed in. So this is kind of what it looked like. I can read it here on the page. Everything in JSTOR is going to be from an academic journal. A lot of them will be longer than this. Having only a 2-page one is fairly rare, but sometimes it'll be a little longer. Either way, if this looks like something I'm interested in, something I want to explore further and come back to, I'm going to come here to Cite, and I'm going to go to Export to Noodle Tools. As long as I've opened up Noodle Tools today, I'm going to make sure that I have the correct project selected, the Beatles. I'm going to import, and it took it in Chicago Turabian style. And if I come over to Noodle Tools and hit refresh, scroll down, I can see, here it is, that I added this one by the Polychronicon Interpreting the Beatles was added to my list. So that's kind of how to search within JSTOR. You can also search Gale in context. And this one, you won't need to put in a username. You just need to put in a password. And that password's going to be Titans. And we're going to search in a similar fashion. I'm going to do the Beatles and music influence. Let's see what happens there. So I'm going to go ahead and open up one of these. If it looks like there's potential within this, I'm going to come up here to the Cite, export to Noodle Tools, make sure the Beatles is selected, and import that, and it should now be in my Noodle Tools account. Hopefully you can put as many sources as you want in your Noodle Tools, and we can easily delete them if you find later, after you have selected a topic for sure and you've kind of narrowed down what your focus is for that turning point, we can delete different resources, but at least if you're saving a few resources, you've got something that we can start with once we get to be back in person. So spend a little time today working in both JSTOR and Gallon Context. Hopefully you have kind of narrowed down 3 topics and you'll have a little bit of time to explore each of them. And if you find something great, make sure you save it in Noodle Tools so that way you can come back to it at another time. Have a great day and stay warm.